like hardware mode in Iron Man 2, which is, I won't say the weakest because it's not weak, but I loved Iron Man 1 because it was our intro to the MCU. And people can say, yeah, Fantastic Four and X-Men, but the extended universe, like the X-Men had a whole bunch of movies that were just X-Men, and Fantastic Four had two with the originals, which I liked, and then the reboot, and then they rebooted again, but whatever. Iron Man 2 was a step to get to the rest of the, like, as a standalone movie, it wasn't great, I found, but I thought one of my favorite parts of the entire MCU is hardware mode, and getting to hardware mode that Tony Stark went through with listening to his dad's videos and stuff like that. I thought that whole scene from Pepper Potts' office and the 1974 convention, whatever, in the background that he put in his car and racing down the freeway, from that to the new element, that whole thing, not only for the technical aspect, which, you know, probably most of it's fake, but whatever. I thought it seemed plausible to get from X, Y, and Z from whatever, and the atom and whatever. But also him dealing with his relationship with his dad at the same time with his videos, and then hearing his dad from beyond the grave saying, "Tony, you're my greatest creation." I My hat off, like that was that whole part was it. The rest of it with Whiplash or whatever it's called, that whatever, it's fine, and all the robots, Rhodey, and the big battle at the end, fine. That was stock for me. That wasn't Iron Man 3 is my favorite out of the entire franchise. Iron Man 3, PTSD and all the stuff that he was dealing with, and how he conveyed it, and the kid, like, I loved Iron Man 3 for the depth to the character and stuff like that. I really enjoyed Iron Man 3 the best for the character. Again, standard villain, whatever, villain of the day. Still good, don't get me wrong, still great. But Iron Man 3 had that depth of Tony Stark getting past his whatever and finally getting the operation done to get the metal removed from his chest. Brilliant. My favorite multi-character movie is Avengers, the first one. People say Endgame, and again, I mentioned this before. I love Endgame. Don't get me wrong. It's 3 hours of just fantastic entertainment. But it was, I compare it going from the horse to the Model T, and from the Model T to the Ferrari, right? And you can see all the steps that go from the Model T to the Ferrari. But that first step from the horse to the Model T is radically different. The end game is steps above Avengers, but there are steps above. The Avengers, that was their first step, and it was their first kick in the can for a multi-character superhero, and those are only 6 of them. I get that. I loved Avengers. There was a lot of heart to it, a lot of depth to it, a lot of Coulson dying to it, like the whole thing, Thor and his brother, like all of it was spot on. There's not a single scene I would change in the original Avengers at all. At all. It was fantastic. Ultron, out of the 4 movies, was the weakest, but still was okay because it had some stuff. Infinity War, fantastic, but sad. But Endgame, the chef's kiss, the denouement, or whatever, the pinnacle of the whole thing. But Avengers, out of the 4 Avengers movies, my favorite, the first one, absolutely. And I love the rest of them. Ultron was the weakest, but I still liked it. But 3 and 4, fantastic bookends. But the first one, just because it's like the first time I saw RoboCop, and not to use that as a comparison, because RoboCop was not, in the end, a fantastic movie. But they make movies like this. You walk out of the theaters that I've never, ever, ever, ever experienced that type of movie before. Now, was it a good type? I think so, but it's just because it was just like completely gratuitous, over the top, like Sergeant Slaughter in the comic books, Buddha, 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 vit, 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 just over the top, some parts grotesque, violent, because it was supposed to be like, it was so beyond the pale, and just and Peter Weller, you dead or alive, you were coming with me, just nailed it. Like there, again, I wouldn't change a scene. It's not my all this every family member should watch this movie, because that's absolutely not. But RoboCop, Ghostbusters is also in my head. I've seen lots of movies up until Ghostbusters, Star Wars, like tons of movies, and then I'm watching even Star Wars 1977, like. My mind was changed. It was a radical shift in me of how they make movies when Star Wars came out, when Ghostbusters came out, when RoboCop came out, and when Avengers came out. And everything other than that are great. Shawshank is even kind of like that, but Shawshank was more subtle in that how fantastically wonderful and completely cohesive in one singular movie that you don't need a franchise. You don't need Shawshank as a 100% standalone movie that I can watch anytime. I've seen it at least 100 times when it's on TV. I'll stop and watch it. It's just singularly the most well written, well acted, well directed. There's not a scene, there's not a moment in that movie that can be cut or should be cut, and everything in there just flows. I will say Shawshank doesn't have too much subtlety to it. There's not too many Easter eggs to it. People find stuff, but there's not too much Easter eggs. Like, it's a straightforward plot. There's no surprises. But the absolute fantastic composition and presentation of that movie is, like, I'm not saying it's my favorite movie of all time, but as a singular movie, there isn't much to compare that to, because other movies do not have that complete cohesiveness in its entirety from beginning to end. Other movies don't have that. Sometimes they feel a little bit, they're drawing out here, or is it too fast? That wasn't explained. And for a general audience too, because you can go to a movie that's so esoteric that some people will, this was perfect. And I'm looking at it like Dumb and Dumber. I don't get it still to this day. But I've seen some esoteric art films, and then going, what? I just wasted time watching that movie. And yet you talk to the critics and, oh my goodness, this is the most powerful movie ever. Clockwork Orange, I will not watch it. I saw it once back in high school. I said, no, I am not remotely interested in this movie. But you talk to people, they think it's like the best Kubrick movie ever. Like, oh my God, the whole depth and whatever. And don't care. I'm not remotely interested. And again, I come back to Citizen Kane. I don't hate that movie. I think it's the most blasé movie on the planet. I don't know why they filmed it. It was a waste of hours of my life watching that movie. When you watch it, when you actually sit back and you go, okay, I just wasted all that time. Rosebud. Okay, I have no attachment to any character. Not one character. That entire movie I'm watching, I have no attachment to anything. Nothing in that movie. And it's the best, FYI, American film, the AFI, best American film. It's one of the best movies of all time. No, it's not. For me, it really isn't. It's like, oh, well, whatever. Again, that one scene, exceptional, knocked out of the park. That one scene. And I think for me, it's if that scene was in any other movie, I thought, it's a nice scene. In Citizen Kane, it's the one singular shining moment of that entire 2 hours of waste. So, I'm not going to keep on harping about Citizen Kane. And it had nothing to do with the movie. Literally, that whole scene, when you listen to the scene, the guy talking, I think it's a banker or whatever, he's talking, he's just pontificating, he's just reminiscing about something that happened. It had nothing to do with the plot, nothing to do with the characters, nothing to do with anything else in that movie. It's just him telling you the story about how wonderful his life was at that one moment. Anyway, so was a whole tangent, the fact that Tony Stark in hardware mode, when I get into hardware mode, things get a little messy. Remember, he ripped apart his entire thing to build that particle accelerator on his room there, and then the laser started cutting through everything. And the part I really thought was kind of cheesy is that it cuts through his power bank, his breaker panel, cuts right through the half. Then you don't have any power. So you cut right through. You would think that he would have that little thing that needs that energy coming towards it in a more convenient spot than turning it 90 degrees from the circle where he's cutting like a Cylon. Not Cylon. Oh, what do I think? Oh no, it was the Cyclops in The Day the Earth Stood Still. The second one. I love the Data Eaters still, the original. I like this. I like the reboot. I see where they were going. It just didn't land 100% for me. I liked it, but I also then I have to stop looking at nostalgia about the first 1951, if I remember correctly. That movie, when you actually look at it from an external, not science fiction, but an external, it's a very dry movie. There's not a lot of, I mean, there's some chaos when the thing starts, shooting tanks and stuff, and people start fleeing around. But it's a very dry movie. There's not a lot of emotional connections to the alien or to the not girlfriend, or to any other character in the movie. It's more of I like to say, cerebral movie, where everything takes place in your head of the thought processes. Again, like Gene Roddenberry's first episode of Star Trek, The Cage, or the Menagerie. Don't at me, bro. But you watch again. I never understood the cerebral. It's too cerebral from the network executives of the Menagerie. I watched the Menagerie and I'm going, he's wrestling with this big huge beast like type person, and he's on fire. He's in hell, like he's in literally the vision of hell, and like a lot of stuff, and even taking on the Thelosians. The stuff happened in that movie or in the TV show. Stuff happened. Now I'm glad they asked for a second pilot, because then we got Shatner. and the rest is history. And I'm glad they did that, because then we did get the Cage parts 1 and 2. So I have mixed feelings of how. I don't think Star Trek would have been Star Trek that we know and love today had Jeffrey Hunter stayed in as the captain of the Enterprise, the Captain Pike of the Enterprise, because he didn't have. I mean, I love Jeffrey Hunter as an actor. You watched the Searchers, John Wayne. You watched that movie. I think it came out a few years before. You're crying. You're absolutely crying. It's one of my favorite. My favorite John Wayne movie is the Shootist, or sorry, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, but also the Shootist. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is just brilliant. Angel and the Badman's also good. That's one of his originals. But anyway, Jeffrey Hunter can act. He's a fantastic actor, and he did a lot of good stuff. And he, even as Captain Pike, he was good, but he was the captain of a ship. It's like if you watch. The one thing I didn't like, for crying out, Denzel and Gene Hackman in that submarine movie. The one thing I didn't like about that was the over emotional of the two characters, and I'm sure that might have happened. But you watch Red October, and Ramius is subdued. He keeps his emotions in check. He doesn't lose it, and he doesn't get provocated. Doesn't get provoked. And I would imagine, captains of aircraft carriers and submarines and battleships and starships would have that not aloofness, but that way of managing all of their emotions. So they're only present. It doesn't look like it's just bubbling just underneath the surface. They're very, very stoic. Captains are stoic. You watch all those World War II movies from back in the 50s and 60s with Robert Mitchum. It's almost in every one. The captains are stoic. They're not like, but then Shatner shows up. And I'm going to say, if you watch the original series, again, so many tangents right now. You watch the original series from the first episode that they filmed through, instead of like as they were broadcast. I think it was the first 8 or 9 episodes. It felt more like a not military with the, Jack Thug boots, but more military-ish than the rest of the series. Even the way they filmed it felt a little more. Kirk is like, with the looks, like not except for The Enemy Within, but not over. Like he sits there with the look. And you got the light on his face, which I really enjoyed. The original series first season, when they were worried about the lighting on people's faces, and they blocked it nicely. And then but he wasn't like Shatner-esque as much. He was more captain, with very, very much in command of his emotions and his presentation to the rest of the team. He had to act like he's always in command, and he knows what he's doing, and even though sometimes he didn't, and that's what happened in The Enemy Within, when he's pontificating about how he can't seem to be the commander without the both halves of his personality, which is a great episode, by the way. I mean, I like that. But as the show went on, there was less and less. There was more humor. Well, there's always humor, but there was more almost slapstick humor. He just seems like just a fun guy to hang out with at a bar, and not a stoic captain anymore. But he got more comfortable with the role. I still love the original series from beginning to end. Besides Spock's Brain, I love the original series. There are some moments in there that are going cringeworthy, but overall, as I say, I vacillate between TOS and TNG, where Jean-Luc does feel like a captain, but a lot more non-military captain that's ready to take on the world, and with putting a knife in his teeth and swimming across the Pacific and taking out people on the islands. He's more contemplative, shall we say. But when he got into his fantastic pontifications, like in Drumhead, oh my goodness, it's like, I'm going to sit here and listen to this guy read the phone book. So anyway, going with that, this was all to say, I don't think Star Trek would have been the Star Trek we loved, like as big as it is today, if Jeffrey Hunter stayed in the role. I don't think it would be. I think a lot of people are attracted to the original series because of Shatner and the way he presented himself on screen. I do think Jeffrey Hunter would have been a perfect commander or captain in a show that didn't need that over-the-top Shatner-esque acting. Jeffrey Hunter is not that actor. He's not that. He's very, very, just by just the way he contemplates himself, comports himself, and contemplation, and attention on that. The blocking of the lighting in the first 8 or 10 episodes, which I loved in the original series, which subsequently was much subdued in the rest of the series. They redid that kind of blocking of light in the episode with Strange New Worlds, when Pike is taking on the Romulans at the Romulan neutral zone, in Balance of Terror. I think it was Balance of Terror. Yeah, Balance of Terror. And the Romulan warbird and the Starbase 4, the Outpost 4. When I watched that for the first time, I'm going, OMG. Like, forget the story. That was beautiful, beautifully well done, with Captain Pike sitting in the chair instead of Shatner sitting with Captain Kirk sitting in the chair for that crisis. I thought just the blocking of the episode and the lighting on people's faces, I'm going, you guys nailed this. You guys knocked this one straight out of the park. It is, I love Strange New Worlds, and it's hard for me to pick my favorite episode. There's not a bad episode in there, even the musical episode. There's not a bad episode for me in Strange New Worlds at all yet. But that one stands out from the crowd for being that, telling that story of Balance of Terror from the original series, but with Pike at the chair, and how things would have been different, because Pike is different than Kirk, straight up. In universe, it's very, very clear that Pike's way of commanding is a lot different than Kirk's way of commanding, and they even brought that up in that episode when Kirk goes on commandeers all those mining ships. Because that's what he does. He doesn't believe in a no-win situation. He just balls. He just throws against the wall and see what's going to work. And he's never been hopeless. He doesn't feel like he's ever, that he has to stop. So I love Star Trek. But going back to Tony Stark, when I'm in hardware mode, which is what this is right now, my desk gets really stupid messy, really, really quick. and that is 19 minutes of me getting to that line. My desk gets very, very messy, really, really quick. But I hope you enjoyed the tangents, because I certainly did. But going back to hardware mode, this really should be a separate video, because somebody's going to sit through 19 minutes of this and then get into this part, but I don't care. I'm not here for those people that want to be entertained the way they want to be entertained after 30 seconds. Which brings me to a tangent that's been set in my head for a day now. I watched the last episode of Doctor Who yesterday. I'm not going to give you spoilers, but the overwhelming TikToks and Facebooks, and just I hated when they did this and that and the other thing. You guys have no idea. You guys want it your way. This isn't McDonald's, have it your way. This is not them kowtowing to your toxic fandom, period. I loved it. I've been a Doctor Who fan since Doctor 3. And Tom Baker was my doctor because, again, I was 7, 8 watching Tom Baker doing all his antics for like 6 seasons or 7 seasons. He was utterly fantastic. And I wept when he changed over to the next Doctor, Doctor 5. And he was good. And then I didn't like 6. I understood what he was playing, the role he was supposed to play. I didn't like him. I watched all the episodes, right? But Sylvester McCoy shows up right after that. Fantastic again. Eccleston, fantastic. Tennant, fantastic. Matt, beautiful. And then you got, well, I'm forgetting his name now. It doesn't matter. Loved him and Clara. Loved him. Loved his speech about with the Zygons and Kate. It was just brilliant. I love the 2 billion years stuck in that whatever. I used to know all these names. I loved it. I loved Jodie. I loved Jodie Whittaker, and I'm glad. No spoilers. But there was a little squee. There was definitely a little squee for me because I was just like, chef's kiss, and I was there for it. I was there. Oh, but they do too many member berries. You guys go screw yourself with the member berries. If you don't like a show because they're referencing stuff that should have been referenced, like I get Steve Shives. I love him. He's one of my favorite people. He's one of my favorite people who talk about Star Trek, and he hated Star Trek Picard season 3 because it was all member berries and no story. You miss seeing the forest through the trees. I love member berries when they're used appropriately, and I think, and this is why I love Lower Decks. Oh, that's all it is. It's just referencing everything else. Don't care, because they have their own story, they have their own characters, and they have their own. But they are fans, and I'm here for it. I'm here for that fandom too. I'm here for the heavy stuff. I'm here for the light stuff. I'm here for the making fun of yourself stuff. Like when you saw that wall of supercomputers that are trying to take over the universe as the camera's fading out, I'm going, nicely done, and they're all talking about, they're trying to, I'm better than you, taking over the world. Like Landru is, that'll always stick in my head for the rest of my life, by the way. Landru. So, and of course TOS, they always had the computers that are trying to take over the universe. And so Lower Decks made a huge fun of that, and the fact that Boimler outsmarted it. See, there was some substance there. Boimler knew what this supercomputer was going to do. This mean supercomputer wanted to take over the world, and Boimler outsmarted it by letting it, hosted by its own petard, as they say. I am so sick to death of people whining and complaining that the show's not going in the direction they want it to go in. I don't care. I don't have a direction that I want the show to go in. I never did. I want to be entertained. I don't want to think about, I mean, I love thinking about future state. Hey, in the universe, would this happen? Would that happen? I'll talk about that stuff all day long. But the creators of the show are going to come in and they're going to make an episode. And they're going to say, this is what I want to happen in the episode. This is what I want the actor to say. This is what I want the scenes to look like. They're the directors of the episode and the franchise. And I'm not. I'm just a fan. I'm just a guy who watches on TV to make the money, right? They got sponsorship for commercials, and they're going to put that show on TV, and I'm going to watch it. There has not been a single time when I said to myself, oh, Doctor Who has jumped the shark, I'm never watching it. I didn't say that for Happy Days. I watched literally every single episode of Happy Days when it ran on TV the first time. Everyone. No, I don't watch it much anymore, but I liked it. Even after the shark jump, I liked it. There were some good, solid episodes. They did the racism episode after the Shark Tank jump. They did that when they were down in Alabama. They're on a school trip, and the kid wasn't getting served coffee. I think that was such a powerful scene to have on TV at that time in the early 80s, because people were, still talking about the racism thing. Go screw yourself if you think, I get the whole jump the shark thing, and that's where it came from. But as Gary Marshall put out very, very clearly, they did 100 episodes after that. Oh, but Happy Days was never the same since Richie Cunningham left. Yes, it wasn't the same. Richie Cunningham left. The star of the show left. But it ran for 100 episodes after the Shark Tank. It ran for 100 episodes. They still made money. People still watched it and loved it. Oh, they're just they're not really true fans. I was. I watched it right until the last episode. I was a true fan. I just can't stand people telling me that I'm not a true fan because I don't believe their crap about their shows that they think aren't any good anymore. Don't tell me. If you don't like the show, don't watch it. I promise you right now, here and now. If you don't like a show, don't watch it. Nobody's going to be hurt by that. You have your opinion on the show. Absolutely. You're absolutely entitled to your opinion on the show or the franchise or the movie or whatever, that you hated it because of X, Y, and Z. It's got too much member berries. 100%. You can hate the show to your heart's content. Never watch it again. I support you on that. But don't go telling the rest of us that the show is crap. It's crap to you. It's not a crap show. It's crap to you. I've talked about, again, Citizen Kane. It's a crap movie to me. There's people out there who love that movie. 100%. I'm going to support you for loving that movie. I do not love that movie, and that's fine. There are so many things I don't like on TV. I don't watch them. This goes back to the KRP, and it wasn't even KRP. It was, or was it KRP? No, it was Sports Night. The line of Sports Night when some guy was protesting over whatever's happening on the sports network that they were on, that they didn't like what the guy said. The morning radio show guy, if I remember correctly, was saying, "Oh, the show has jumped the shark." They said this, and I said, and I think it was Dan Rydell, Josh Charles, said, "Oh, I don't like that guy either. But you know what I do? I turn off the radio. I don't listen to that station. I go over to a station I want to listen to." That's what I do. If I don't want to watch something, right now I have a moratorium on Will Smith movies. I don't watch them. I'm not telling other people not to watch them. Watch to your heart's content. But right now I will not watch Will Smith. I'm sorry, Will. You have not to anybody that whatever. I can no longer in all consciousness support you right now. And yes, it's been a while. And no, I'm not up the carpet. That's 100% you. And you, from my point of view, you haven't done anything to reconcile that act. So you don't get my support. But I want you to continue making movies if you want to make movies. I want you to continue promoting your movies if you want to make movies. I'm not going to watch them. And you're not going to lose any sleep over me not watching them. That's perfectly acceptable. I'm not watching your movies to hurt you. I'm not interested in them at this point because of what you did. So make a living, do what you can, do whatever you want to do, have at it, and support your family and support your friends and support whatever. Make your stuff. Right now, I'm not watching them, and that's because I am not watching them because of my own personal base. And if other people want, hey, I'm gonna go see the Will Smith, I'll drive you to the theater if you need a ride. I'm not watching them. So anyway. I'm going to start this later. I'm going to go off on so many tangents. That's who I am. So that was a whole mess, just like my desktop is a mess. That was a whole mess of stuff. I'm going to stop this at the 28-minute mark. And hey, content.